welcome back to another episode of You Are Not Alone. Today's topic is bouncing back. I'm joined here with Sina, Brandon, and Cheyenne. If you like this episode, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and check us out on Instagram. Let's get into it.
Awesome. So today's topic is on bounce back and what really is bouncing back. So Cheyenne, I have to ask you, what is bounce back and what does it mean to you?
Bouncing back is kind of the process of you getting out of a dark spot in your life and just coming back with power and also just making your life a little bit better.
With bouncing back, with the viewer and the listener, we really want you guys to understand that in tough situations in life and when life is beating you left and right, there's honestly more to life once you do bounce back. It's always it can't the one thing I love to always say is it can't rain forever. The sun has to come out and you have to be able to be resilient and to be able to take on challenges in your life because in life we're thrown so many different challenges. It's always going to be complicated. There's never been times in life where you're able to just be at your highs without falling. You're not able to be at your lows without gaining to increase in level. However, with bouncing back, I think we all have different stories and different experiences of what we've been through. So, Will, could you please describe a time where you bounced back and but you still had to have difficult times, right, in that moment?
Yeah, and it's actually pretty recent too, and it's a good one. So earlier last year, I tore a muscle in my knee, my meniscus, and that was tough. There was a little depression that followed with it, but it got better really quickly. Some hard times, but whatever. And then earlier this year, I tore the same muscle, and on top of that, I tore my ACL with it, which is even worse. And so for me, it was kind of falling off a cliff. Like all of a sudden, I was just at the deep end. It was a terrible experience. It was not fun to go through, and mentally getting through that is essentially what bouncing back is to me. And I'm still in the middle or the process of that bounce back to this day because it's such a long recovery. But that's kind of my story. I'm now went from rock bottom and now kind of in that slope back up mentally.
In that experience, while you were so you're pretty much in a moment right now to bounce back.
Yeah, like I am in that process.
When you were spiraling, was there any point in time where you wanted to give up and not push through?
I wouldn't even call it like spiraling. It's more of like, and that it can be spiraling. For me, it was just straight down. Like I just went right down to the bottom, and it was just a hard time to where there were times where I considered like not only just like, "Oh, should I give up?" but like, why is this happening to me? Just the amount of negative thoughts overtook the positives, and that's why it was such a hard experience. And it makes it even harder when those negatives outweigh the positives to essentially create that bounce back.
And in season two, we kind of describe the motion of that. Negative emotions are actually much stronger than positive emotions, unfortunately, in the world that we live in. But when you're overwhelmed with positive emotions, they beat negative emotions out. Brandon, was there any time that you had to bounce back in a situation where you believe that maybe you were spiraling or it got to a point where the negative emotions were really beating the positive emotions and you felt like you were almost right off the cliff?
Yeah. This was back in college. So usually with me, I'm a more of an active person. I was in college, and usually my favorite thing to do was play basketball at the rec center. I went to college, SIU, if anyone knows about that. But basically, um, I was probably 18, 19 at the time when I first got there. And at first, I started experiencing pain in both my knees. And usually, I don't ever experience pain like that before or just anywhere on my body. Like I always keep myself in check or always take care of myself, basically. But as the months were going on, I noticed little by little that my knees were just hurting. Like there were even days where I would wake up and like I didn't even want to go to class. I just sitting there because I was having just immense pains and just driving at my knees. I'm just like, what is wrong with me? Like, what the hell's going on, basically? So I eventually went to go get myself checked out, and basically what they told me is that like my knees were going bad, and that kind of scared me because usually like I always told myself, and I know this is kind of bad to think, but like I always thought like I was invincible, things like that. But then nobody's invincible. Things can happen to you any moment in time. So then I had to figure out ways of how can I help my niece because it stopped me from playing basketball for a while. I would not go, and even like when I try to force myself to go because I just miss playing the nature of that game. I still had to basically sideline myself because I just couldn't go through it, even though I told myself to push through. But basically, I'm not helping myself. I'm just damaging myself by just continuing to push through. So it just kind of put me in a downward spiral because like I wanted to get better. I want to get back out on the court to be able to do what I love to do. And that also helped me out with my mental health as well. Cause like when I was going through bad times, that was basically my escape or my route to get away from all that was just locking myself in the gym, hooping with the guys and just having fun. So
In that period, you would say that a lot of moments in your life as you were pretty much falling off the cliff were a point of time where a lot of bad habits probably showed themselves, right?
mhm,
Like you start reaching for a lot of things. Like as you're falling off the cliff, you're kind of reaching for the rock, right? To like kind of help you get back to the top.
mhm.
Were there any points of time, and if you could help the listener and viewer understand how do you avoid these bad habits, and if you did get bad habits, what did you do to make sure that they did not continue in your life cycle?
So with that, when I noticed I was getting a bad habit. At first, usually with myself, like I would ignore it, which is the thing. That's what's not to do. Do not ignore it. Always like take in consideration of what you're doing. And I'll just think to myself, is this these habits that I'm doing, what is the benefit coming out of it? Like for an example, like like I said with the whole knees thing and like not be able to play, like, like I would get frustrated, like I'll tell myself, like, no, not to get mad, but yeah, I still keep on getting mad, which my bad habit is I do have a short temper when things are not going my way with my own self. So I would get really upset and I would just tend to block things out or just tend to ignore people when in reality people are just trying to just help me out or trying to help find a solution. So I was just being just hard headed basically. I was just trying to think, oh, I could do it on my own, when in reality that's not the point. And so eventually what I did to help break that habit was that I try to be more accepting and more just trying to open my mind and try to take those opinions in from other people of what to do. Like, maybe don't do it, or maybe you don't go out, or maybe just like, try to do there's a method called RICE. I think it was rest, ice, elevate, and oh, no. Rest, ice, compress, and elevate. That's what it
Yeah.
was. That's what it was. And basically, like I started doing that and it was getting better little by little. So, I feel like, if people offer advice, don't always shut it away. Try to take into consideration or try to apply it to your daily life because you may never know that something could actually be very beneficial when it's right there for you.
I have to say, there's been moments in my life where things are just going wrong, right? And
Yeah.
like everybody is like trying to help you and trying to give you their advice,
Hmm.
and you're trying to take it with like trying to take the advice to help you, but there's like so much information being thrown at you at once. You're
You
just
just
like,
don't know what to
I
do.
don't know what to do, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm just like, what do I do in this situation? Like whose advice do I really follow? Was there a point in time, Will, that you grabbed any bad habits that you wish you didn't have, or was there any point at all that like the bad habits continued in your bouncing back at your current moment now?
There were 100% bad habits that I picked up, especially in the beginning. I picked up really bad habits, which I won't share. But through the process of bouncing back, you have to break those habits. Essentially, a full bounce back is breaking through all of those habits that you've developed during that time.
And that's see like those moments of like when you break through a bad habit, it's like a crazy awesome feeling. You're just
It's a
like,
wonderful
dude,
Oh
feeling.
yeah.
I'm doing awesome now. Cheyenne, what did you in your period of bouncing back? Did you pick up any good habits? Like I know we're like talking a lot about negative energy here, but like let's throw some positive energy out there. Like good habits that you kind of took on, anything that you would recommend to the listener or viewer.
Uh, One of the main things that I kind of latched onto as a good habit was always keeping my mind focused on something that wasn't like where all the negative energy in my life was located. So like I would enjoy movies or I would listen to music, and I at times like I would make my own music, especially like when I was sad and depressed and I didn't want to think about like what I had going on in my life to an extent where it would just drag me down. Definitely keeping myself grounded, with surrounding myself with just good and positive vibes really helped me maintain this level of happiness while everything was going around, and that ultimately led to me bouncing back.
It really helped you show like not only do bad habits exist, but you, honestly, when we get into situations where so much negative energy is surrounding us, like sticking to the core things that you love to do, especially like listening to music, doing hobbies, just figuring out what your core good habits are and allowing those to shine in dark moments are honestly those moments when you do break through and you're just like, I'm thankful for whatever. I'm thankful for this. I'm thankful for that. I have to say, like, podcasting, it has to be something new that I discovered for myself that I really enjoyed. Was like, this is a great habit to pick up. And I kind of started setting other bad habits aside. So, to the listener and viewer, honestly, don't be afraid of new experiences or new hobbies or anything, especially when you're in a moment of like a fall off a cliff. You're reaching for anything. You're reaching for, to grab anything. So if you reach for the bad things, of course you're going to receive you're going to also learn in those experiences to what's a bad habit and what's a good habit. But in the end, when you stick to core things and try to find new experiences that help you push yourself to the next to bouncing back, you really discover a lot about not only yourself but also the people around you who are giving you the advice, who are helping you get through whatever you're going through.
Or who aren't.
Or who aren't. Yeah, exactly. I do have to agree. The kind of a lot of people show their true colors. The next question is, when you hit rock bottom, when you finally feel the ground and life just doesn't seem the same. And if you kind of get into that phase of like, woe is me? Why me? Why is this happening to me? I have to ask you, gentlemen, what do you do when you hit rock bottom and where do you go next?
When when you ultimately hit rock bottom, you really want to keep not like this overly positive mentality, but like just enough to keep you afloat where everything that everything that is bad that's happened to you is kind of in the back of your mind and not the forefront. So you just need to focus on the things that you really enjoy doing. And if you don't really know what that is, you just kind of have to put yourself out there, out into the world. And also, like relating to Brandon's story, like how he didn't want to talk to anybody or, just reach out. He was missing that kind of like key factor that you need to surround yourself with positivity, whether that's you seeing a therapist or if it's you talking to a good friend or cutting off that bad friend. It's just really all about your surroundings and also how much you put out there.
And when you honestly reach that floor, I personally believe that like your eyes open, like you finally can see a lot of things that you weren't paying attention to when you were at your top. You kind of see different things in other people, and for me, I I'm really difficult when it comes to like friendships and ending friendships and seeing, just because like I've had a lot of bad friendships in my period of life where I've learned a lot, and and when I've hit rock bottom before and I'm in that moment, I've honestly really enjoyed it because it opened my eyes to see who's got your back, who's gonna pick you up, who's there when the sky is falling. Like those those are things that you need to understand about resiliency. It's a learning experience. This whole creative thought of bouncing back, not only should it be a learning experience, but it should honestly give you some like a new start. It's like kind of like a restart to like, okay, what can I do now so I don't fall off the cliff again? Or who do I need to hang out with? Who do I need to cut out my life with? Like you said, Cheyenne, it's really important. What would you do?
I would agree with you and call it like it is a serious mindset shift, especially the harder you fall, the more the more your mindset shifts, and it's very very difficult in in most cases. For me, like I like to kind of think about it on Cheyenne's point, kind of like a cut. You know, like you cut your arm, it's bad. Do you fix it? No, you just put a band-aid on it. And that could be drugs or alcohol, any type of stimulation to get you to stop thinking about your problems, right? It gets worse, it gets infected, and you grow more habits or you grow more bodily problems, right? But when you focus on the positives and even the fact that you're able to then turn these negatives into positives in some sense, on top of finding more positive things to do, that just further, actually cleans that cut. You clean it. It's painful. You sew it up. That's painful. But eventually you are fully healed and you are better than you were before. And that is the entire idea of a bounce back. And on top of that mindset shift, going along the lines of what you were saying, Sina, how I really think about it is not only are you getting better habits, but you are in that process of learning how to not fall into them again. And that further makes you stronger. And that's why the mindset shift is so important and so hard to go through. But it is something that will happen and you will go through it, but it will make you better of a person.
Let me give another example. There was a friend of mine when they hit rock bottom and they felt the ground. They looked themselves in the mirror and they didn't like what they were seeing because when they were on that incline of just life is great and everything, they realized that during the incline they picked up bad habits, eating a lot, not focusing on diet, not going to the gym. And it was crazy because what I saw was when they hit rock bottom and when they started inclining again was when they went to the gym and they lost so much weight that they were a completely different person. And that's crazy because if they would have never hit that bottom ground, they would have never looked in the mirror to fix the problem that they didn't see when they were on the incline. So again, I think something that we're just trying to get in your head as a viewer and listener is that don't look at at don't look at the fall and the hit and the ground and feeling the ground as a bad thing. Look at it more as something that you could possibly change about yourself, change who you're hanging out with, change what you're doing, or learning something new that you never thought that you would want to pick up. Who knows? What about that instrument that you probably put down a long time ago that you haven't picked up since? What about that friend who you haven't contacted in a really long time? Sometimes we need these little things that we kind of put aside for other reasons that occurred in life that we can easily pick up again and find that sense of feeling again of, wow, this was something I actually really, really enjoyed, right? Like, Brandon, was there anything that you picked up during your bounce back after the whole knee problems and anything or was there anybody who helped you and picked you up and what did they do to pick you up?
Yeah, with that, actually, I reached out to a friend. I have a friend in Iowa. Usually I talk to him time to time, met him to the Xbox. But basically, like, during my moment when I was going through that, like, cause we will game here and there, like when I was in college and all that. So then, like, we're in the party. Like, I asked him, like, because he could always tell, like, like whenever like I'm not me, you know what I'm saying. So then, like, he asked me, like, hey man, like, what's going on? Like, why do you feel like you're not there? And I just told him basically, I'm just going through a rough time right now. Like kind of like I explained earlier, just going through a bad time. Like I want to get back out there, all this and that. And so basically, he was like, he just told me, he said, just go back to your foundations, like what basically makes you and who you are as a person. Like, yes, you are down at the moment, but it will not define you as a person of who you are because in the end, kind of like what all you guys said, like, with the resilience, like everybody will work hard. If you don't not want to be there, you'll work hard enough regardless to get yourself out of there because it sucks being down there. And the people who have ever been through moments like that or just anything in general that puts you at rock bottom, it's not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling to be there. And we all don't want to be there and we all want to get out. So we will do anything within our willpower to get back to the top or at least feel at homeostasis with ourselves again, you know?
So why do we look at bouncing back as such a negative thing in our life?
I think it's just because it's a good thing in disguise, but it really does hurt. It's meant to shape you as a person. It it's that mindset shift when you go through a real hard bounce back is essentially somebody telling you your religion is not real and that this is the real way things are. And that is the way things are, but you have to grow to be that new person. And it hurts. The process hurts, but it has to happen if you want to be that much better of a person because you do come out of it better than you were before. And that's painful to go through, but again, it's meant to be that way because it's meant to shape you to be better.
And so what it sounds like is it's really important for your mental health and you to understand that when these things happen to you, that it's normal, happens to all of us, and it's the way that you shift your mindset, and that will help you get out of whatever you're dealing with. So in a moment like that, Cheyenne, how do you keep your mental health in check though?
Well, a large part of it is reaching out to others and surrounding yourself with the right people. But I mean, one of the main things is like, in order to better yourself, you have to want to do it. And you have to basically have the willpower to bring yourself out of that dark space in life.
So it's as much a social thing as it is a solo thing.
Exactly. And the less you make it a social thing, it's you're just always going to be in this uphill battle with yourself and your own thoughts. And sometimes you don't know what's best for you and you need that professional, you need that good friend, you need to reach out to those people in order to like really center in on your life, figure out what's wrong and to really overall work on your happiness in life.
Working on your happiness, man, that's something that you definitely don't allow rock bottom to take that away from you. Don't allow rock bottom to put you in through such bad situations. Because sitting there at rock bottom, crying, saying, "Woe is me, why me?" is just going to attract more negative energy. Because all you're doing is throwing negative energy into the world, and what's going to come back is just negative energy, and that's not going to help your mental health. No way does that, because again, your negative energy is way stronger than your positive energy, so you're going to need even more positive energy in your life.
And that's
But
exactly how the brain works too.
yeah,
Like it looks for reassurance. So if you keep saying, why does this happen to me? Why is this happening to me? Your subconscious mind will work on that reason to tell you subconsciously, this is why it's happening to you. And it will be negative.
so what should you say to yourself?
For me to get through my bounce back and what I'm doing now is having the ability to turn those negative situations into positive situations. Like I tore my muscle in my knee. I couldn't walk. I was stuck in bed for 4 months before I could get surgery because of COVID and other problems. But how did that shape me as a person? And where did what areas of my life was I able to look at and change because of this happening? Rather, why is this happening to me? Why this is gonna if this just keeps happening, it's just gonna keep getting worse. And it would have kept getting worse. I would be in a terrible mindset right now if I just kept thinking that. The ability to think positive is such a big factor. And to think differently. It doesn't even have to be all positive. You know, people or you yourself, you might tell yourself like I if you only look at what is, if you are only able to see what is, then all you will create is more of what is. You have to be able to put your thoughts beyond this what is happening now in order to attract something different or something better than what you have now. And the mental aspect of that is such a high significance to that mindset shift to take place.
What is important is, like Will said, what you say to yourself. What I like to do is when I get into a situation where I'm woe is me, I say, why am I thinking that? Why did I just say, why me? It doesn't matter why you. It doesn't matter that the world doesn't care what you're going through. But What's important and what will continue helping you get to the top, back to the top, is who you surround yourself with, what you say to yourself, whether you seek a professional help or not, which, again, I have to be biased and say that seeing a therapist is not as scary as it is. And if you've never seen one, I mean, who knows? Maybe this is your time. Give it a chance. Give new things chances. Don't keep pushing them aside. It's not going to help. It's a moment at rock bottom that you can do these things, and it honestly is going to help you in the end. So why not? Why not try that new thing that you want to push to the side for such a long time? Is there anything else you guys think that would help people honestly keep their mental health in check? How can we help them?
Um, I would just say, personally, for me, I would just say, just always try to stay positive throughout the situation, no matter how bad it is. If you ever do feel down or start feeling a little bit negative, sometimes I kind of say to myself, like when you do have like those negative thoughts, it's okay to think of them, but don't think about it for too long. In that moment when it happens, of course, everybody gets frustrated, but always think towards the positive. Eventually, good things will come, better things will come as long as you put your mind to it and as long as you stick to a game plan, everything will be okay. It's just that you need to put in the work and effort, kind of like what Cheyenne said, because no one is gonna come to your door knocking and be like, oh, hey, you need to get better at things like that. Everybody needs to take that self will or that self control in themselves that, yes, I do want to be better. Yes, I do want to be in check with myself and I do want to be a better person.
Hey, that's what we here at Wine are trying to help you do. Not only become a better person for yourself, maybe a better person for your family, better person for your friends, and who knows? I hope that we figured out a way to help you get through rock bottom, resiliency, bouncing back, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to say.
Everyone goes through it.
Everyone goes through it.
Mm-hmm.
You're not alone through this. You'll never be alone
You're
through
not
this.
alone.
Not
So
alone.
please, please, please remember, you are not alone. And we can't wait to catch you guys in the next episode. See you later.